I wanted to start today's video off by saying that you are all wonderful. And as I've said before, you guys make such wonderful works of art trying to pursue your dreams. And I hope that my words reach you guys, and certainly I hope that they motivate you into trying to be the best you that you can be, even if that may not be along the same path as following your dreams. As sometimes you can try to pursue your dreams and feel that they are not right for you, and that's okay. But everyone has their purpose, everyone has their calling, and it is truly a wonderful thing to keep pursuing that no matter the circumstances. So, as we say here in the Majin Fox crew, welcome boots. With that said, let's jump right into the video. So, we start this video by naming our protagonist Majin F6, solely due to the fact that we were one character short of putting the name in. After fiddling around with the application form settings, we jump into the game, and after inspecting every object in our room like we have nothing better to do, we finally get changed into normal clothes and head downstairs to greet our family. I decide to name my rival Cyberwolf after a dear friend of the channel, and for some reason are gifted women's clothes by our sister. As we walk outside, we meet Cyberwolf, who tells us his Gramps is in Viridian City on an errand, and we head out to try to meet him. We bump into Professor Oak on the way out of town, who stops us and takes us back to his lab to get our first Pokemon, Char the Charmander. We then get absolutely decimated by our rival because I forgot that I had turned it to hard mode because, and I quote, "I'm a professional." We quickly stop by the rival's house and get a map from his sister before proceeding out of town. It's not long before we see our first trainer, who has a level 5 Pidgey, and once again we lose. So of course I geared up for a rematch, and I lost again. So instead I decided that I would completely skip her and start training in the tall grass. During this time, we go ahead and grab Oak's parcel and make our way back to Pallet Town to get the Pokeballs and the Pokédex. By this time, nightfall has come and we catch our first Pokemon, which I named Hamilton the Rat Hoot, a combination fusion of Rattata and Hoot Hoot. I also revisit last Mimi and her level 5 Pidgey, now that I have a level 7 Charmander with Ember, and despite her best attempts to stop me, I finally pull out a win. I decide that in order to beat Brock, I should be prepared and bring with me a Mankey, which I very much hoped would be in this version of the game, and so I proceed west of Viridian City to try to catch one. After several minutes of grinding, I do happen to finally catch one, which I nickname Jotaro. My fellow JoJo fans will know that reference. We also go ahead and catch our fourth Pokemon, a Nidoran male, which we nickname Jeff, as well as a Nidoran female that we nickname Renran. And finally we catch a Spearow, which we nickname Pecky. Unfortunately, Pecky will not be with us very long, as we immediately trade him for a Bellsprout in the Pokemon Center named Belly. Clearly a man of similar mindsets. We give one last goodbye to Pecky the Spearow before moving on, and pick up a berry hat from the nearby school. we do a bit more grinding before I decide to go ahead and fuse Jotaro and Jeff together into a Nidoking. I finally make my way to Viridian Forest, where I immediately catch a Caterpie dubbed Cat, followed shortly by a Weedle named Pokey. And I happen a chance encounter with a Ladybug, which I nicknamed Lady Red. As soon as we get to Pewter City, we head straight for Brock's gym, and Jotaro the Nidoking makes quick work of the entire gym's worth of Pokemon, including the unholy abomination that is Brock's Dignix. I spend some time side questing, getting an old man some flowers for his Oricorio, and happen upon another chance encounter with a Fomantis, which we simply call Manny. I go ahead and take the time in the next route to catch an Igglybuff, which I choose to call Mrs. Saturn. Some of you may get that reference. You guys are the real heroes out there. I then make the poor decision to enter a double battle, which costs me 5 of my 6 Pokemon before I'm finally able to pull out a victory, thus forcing me to return back to the Pokemon Center. I then proceed to make the most unholy abomination by fusing Cat the Caterpie with Mrs. Saturn, making a Catterbuff, and probably the most questionable decision of the run thus far, infusing Charmander with the Fomantis and making a Fomander. And while I originally planned to stop here after entering Mount Moon just before taking on the Team Rocket bullies, I decided to come back later in that same evening in hopes of meeting where I wanted to be at, being past Cerulean City, or at least past Misty. Of course, shortly after entering Mount Moon, we bump into a Geoshrew, which I do decide to catch and name the Dude. And of course, after training for an extended period of time, Mrs. Saturn finally evolves into a Metabuff. And I must say, it's a face only a mother can love. Shortly after, we capture Perry the Paris and evolve Mrs. Saturn again into a Butterbuff. And after a grueling series of losses and victories, Nidoking evolves into, you guessed it, a Nidoking. Of course, we're not done yet with Mount Moon, and we bump into this abomination, Pabat, which we should have killed with fire, which we decide to take out with a simple peck. Lucky enough, in the rest area, we happen to find a Moonstone, which we then use on Nidoking to once again evolve it into a Nidoking. Who would have guessed? And of course, now that Jotaro the Nidoking is all muscle and no body, we make quick work of the rest of Mount Moon, and the Team Rocket grunts with it. I know you're gonna ask anyway, so I decided to take the Helix fossil. Of course, as we say, comments are good for the YouTube algorithm, so please ask anyway. After another long series of battles, including this battle here, where I decide to recreate the infamous Metapod battle from the first season of Pokemon, except in this case it is a Kakuna using Harden versus Ran using Tail Whip. And we finally reach enough friendship to evolve Mrs. Saturn the Butterbuff into a Butterpuff. We also catch an Abra, which just based on the pose in the sprite alone, I choose to nickname Tails. I then overhaul my whole team, and with it, unfuse Jotaro and Jeff before fusing Jeff with Tails into what might end up being one of the most dangerous fusions, and then fusing Jotaro with Belly the Bellsprout. After being synthesized to check out the last Pokemon in the area, we go ahead and catch Buniri, which I nicknamed Bun Bun. And then after returning to the Pokemon Center, I decide to see what other monstrosities I can make and fuse Perry the Paris with Bun Bun the Buniri and make a Bunrus. And oh my, if I thought that Metabuff was a face only a mother could love, boy was I wrong here. Of course, it's at this point I decide to try to reach the level cap for Misty's gym, as I know going into it I am probably going to have a difficult time. After finally evolving Char into a Fomelian and taking a look at the levels, I decide that Char the Fomelian and Jotaro the Belky are probably my best bets going into the gym, being grass types. This is probably a slight mistake as I completely neglected Bun Bun the Bunrus, but this is a learning experience for me. I also at this time go ahead and switch around my fusions, switching Hamilton the Rat Hoot into a Hootata and switching Mrs. Saturn into a Jigglyfree. I also go ahead and make one final change, being swapping Char into a Charmantis in order to make better use of his special attack. I decide to go ahead and train up a bit more and finally evolve Tails into a Kadaking after getting stonewalled by an enemy Oddnix. And finally reaching Bill's house, we go ahead and take a step outside, and much to my surprise, the water now has Pokemon inside it, and we happen to bump into a Lotad, which we capture and name Myra L. I decide to take a shot at Misty's gym and get absolutely pulverized, so I decide to take a step back and do some training. Luckily, I find out that youngster Joey can be rebattled infinitely at a higher level most of the time. I'm not sure what actually increases his level, but I'll certainly take it. It is here we finally evolve Jotaro into a Weeping Key and decide to take a few more cracks at Misty's gym and get obliterated still. It's at this point I actually kind of start to worry that I might need a new strategy altogether, and so I begin switching plans. I use pretty much every potion I had, and it wasn't enough. She had me absolutely beat. And so after training some more, I finally get Char the Charmantis to level 23. And while I didn't learn any new moves or anything from the previous level, I did go ahead and decide to tackle the gym again. And you would think I'd have had the same issue. I do go ahead and start with Char and use Ingrain to recover some HP, which ended up turning out to be pointless. But luck happened to be on my side this time, and I did finally beat Misty for the second gym badge. Of course, this is where we leave off today's video, as by the time I was done with it, I was just so happy that I wanted to save immediately and take a break. In fact, I recorded this shortly after the previous stream when I tried to stream the game and it failed, and it ended up taking so much out of me that I just needed a extended break from the game, and really from all of Twitch and YouTube at this point. I will go back to the game, and I do want to try to get past Erica in the next session. That might end up being a tall order though, as there is a lot of story and a lot of obstacles in the way, but I certainly believe in myself and my capabilities, as well as the capabilities of my Pokemon. With that all said, I hope you have a fantastic evening. Bye-bye.